Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Los Angelist. So right now I am working on a future video where I investigate the old Santa Paula branch, and that's an abandoned railroad line that runs from Santa Clarita to Ventura. The portion of that line that is still intact, still has rails, and it's actually a tourist operation, runs from Ventura to about I think as far east as Fillmore, as the Fillmore and Western Railroad. But east of there, the tracks have actually been pulled up, and there is a tentative plan to restore rail service between LA and Ventura counties at some point in the future, and I'm making a video about that plan and what that might look like in the coming years, as and exactly what form the return of rail service to the Santa Clara River Valley might look like. Spoiler alert, probably going to be a DMU service, a diesel multiple unit, but what I actually wanted to talk about in this video is this video is not done yet. I still have a lot of research to do about the various administrative efforts in Ventura County and Los Angeles County to actually revive this rail line. Los Angeles County did drop the ball on that back when, before Supervisor Catherine Barger was elected this past year. Her predecessor was a very kind of traditional conservative politician, and this portion of the old rail line in that would connect to the Metrolink line in Santa Clarita, right here. You see, you can actually still see the lines on the Apple maps, but yeah, so Antonovich, Supervisor Catherine Barger's predecessor, allowed this portion of the rail right-of-way to actually be paved over, and that is mostly, that's because the old rail right-of-way is actually supposed to be the northern lanes. So you see these two lanes right here on Magic Mountain Parkway are actually supposed to be a rail line. So that's my future video that I'm working on, and but what I wanted to talk about in this video was specifically how the elephant in the room, how high-speed rail is actually going to affect Metrolink when it comes to Southern California. And it's actually going to change what our Metrolink system looks like a lot. And I'm going to just show a couple of ways that Metrolink will be affected, actually mostly for the better, by the coming of high-speed rail. So this is a graphic that I'm working on for the forthcoming video right here. I just for a lot of my maps, I just sort of I just take a screenshot from Apple Maps or something, and then I'll just trace over it in Photoshop. So here we are. This is the current Metro and Metrolink services available in northern Los Angeles County. You'll see up here Santa Clarita, we got the red line here, we got the little purple line stub, we got the Expo, we got our blue line, we got our gold line. Now Metro Rail is going to change pretty dramatically in the coming years. So the gold line is actually going to become part of the Expo line. So this southern portion of the gold line and the Expo line, those are going to get linked together. That's under construction right now in downtown Los Angeles, and those two are going to become the gold line. So I'll show that like that, and then there's also going to be an extension of the gold line to South El Monte, and another one down here to Whittier, and those are both funded as part of Measure M, and these are almost definitely happening. So I have those on the map right there. And at the same time, the current northern part of the gold line, the San Gabriel Valley portion of the gold line, is actually going to become part of the blue line. And then that's the regional connector right there. And then at some point, in the coming years. Also under construction is the Crenshaw LAX line. Right now, only the southern portion is under construction, but I do show both the southern and what I think the most likely routing of the northern portion of that is going to be. So that right here, so you can see here we have the ultimate, this is the finished Crenshaw LAX line. So that's the portion that's under construction right now, is south of the Expo line, and then this portion is the Crenshaw LAX North, and that's what West Hollywood has been pushing really hard for, to get Metro Rail up there, and it would connect to Hollywood Highland Station right here. And then of course the Purple Line extension is also underway, so I added that to the map there just to show what that will look like once it's completed. And then one of the most important lines, of course, is the forthcoming Sepulveda Pass line, and that's really going to be transformative. That connects LAX to right now LAX to Silmar in San Fernando up here via Van Nuys Boulevard. So the current plan for this Measure M line is going to be up Van Nuys Boulevard, and it's going to connect to Metrolink right in this area here, right around here, and it's just going to follow this up here, and then it's going to join the existing Metrolink Antelope Valley line tracks, like right up in this area. And I have that shown as just a lighter blue on my map. Let me just put that on so it's visible now. And one thing, one of the rumors that's been going around, I go to a lot of meetings at Metro headquarters near Union Station, and one of the rumors that's floating around is actually, it seems there is an effort to actually have the Sepulveda Pass line continue all the way north to Santa Clarita along the, I believe, along the existing Metrolink right-of-way, which really would make a lot of sense in the longer term, just because this portion of track right here was built in the 1800s, and this is like, takes like 50 minutes for Metrolink to get to and from here. It slows down the whole system. So, but when high-speed rail comes through, high-speed rail is not going to use this old portion of railroad right-of-way right here. High-speed rail is going to build a fancy new right-of-way, and I'm going to show just how high-speed rail coming in is going to affect Metrolink right now. So, well, actually, before we get to that, so we'll go to the high-speed rail, the official statewide alignment map here, and what we're going to look at here is right now there's 3 possible alignments for high-speed rail between Palmdale and Los Angeles, and what I want to show here is what those specific 3 alignments are and where they would rejoin the existing Metrolink right-of-way, which is the current Antelope Valley line. So you see here the 3 possible routes through the Angeles National Forest are shown here, and I think of those 3, the most likely alternative is probably the northernmost one. That's the one that would most closely trace Route 14 up here. The reason I think that one is the most likely of the 3 alternatives is because just because of money. I think this section would probably require the least tunneling, and tunneling is very expensive, and my suspicion is that high-speed rail is going to blow through a lot of money tunneling through the Tehachapi Mountains, as well as some of the tunneling they have to do up near Los Baños and this whole area up here. There's some pretty substantial tunnels that are happening here too. So I think the high-speed rail is not really going to have that much money left for tunneling when it finally gets to south of Palmdale. So I think they're probably going to take the Route 14 one, probably use the existing highway median or something like that. So anyways, yeah, so this right-of-way right here just shows, I think it's going to re-enter the Metrolink right-of-way that we currently use for the Antelope Valley line, just north of the current Sun Valley station. Now, I'm going to show on my map exactly where that is. So, I'm just going to turn back on my high-speed rail layer here. So that's Express West right there, so there's going to be a train to Vegas too at some point. So this is high-speed rail, and this is the portion from just south of Bakersfield into Los Angeles, and then continuing south towards Anaheim. I personally think it should go all the way to Santa Ana, so it connects with the Inland Empire Metrolink line and the streetcar down there, but that's for another video and another time. So anyway, yeah, let's just say this is the alignment that they choose for high-speed rail coming into the Los Angeles basin. Let me zoom in on that a little bit here. And as you can see here, it rejoins the old Metrolink right of way, and I say old because it is very old. It was built in the 1800s. Especially this portion really does show its age, most especially. So what I think is most likely going to happen, and I don't have any official documents that say this yet, but I can't imagine any other outcome to high-speed rail. I think that this tunnel right here, this upgraded right of way, I don't imagine that it wouldn't be shared with Metrolink. So the Antelope Valley line is going to change pretty significantly when high-speed rail comes through. And instead of it being like an hour and 15 minutes in total or something along that between Palmdale and Sylmar, just because of the age and just like how curvy and old this right of way is. So this is going to probably be like a 15-minute train ride instead of an hour long or an hour and a 15-minute train ride, if Metrolink and high-speed rail are allowed to share the same tracks here. So in the future, the Antelope Valley line would most likely start at Union Station, go past Glendale, stop in Burbank, and then instead of continuing all the way to Santa Clarita like it does currently, I think the most likely situation would be that the new Antelope Valley line will actually head towards the Antelope Valley after Burbank through the Angeles National Forest and then up through Palmdale here, where it could use the high-speed rail tracks and turn that current 3-hour train journey into something closer to an hour-and-a-half long train journey, which would be absolutely wonderful for people who live in Palmdale and Lancaster. Now, of course, Santa Clarita doesn't get a high-speed rail station, and I think there's probably an argument to be made for Santa Clarita getting their own high-speed rail station. Santa Clarita has about 100,000 people, give or take, and it would see use, but that's not the plan right now. So that's why I think the Metro Rail being extended to Santa Clarita would make so much sense, because if they use this old Metrolink right of way here, the existing Antelope Valley Metrolink line, and just converted that to Metro Rail, then that way Santa Clarita would not be cut off from the greater transportation upgrades that are happening throughout Los Angeles, and they would actually have direct Metro light rail access, and then they could take this directly to LAX. And if they wanted to, they could also take this to the Van Nuys Amtrak and Metrolink station, and then they could just transfer there to get to the high-speed rail. And I also think one of the other things I'm looking at here is I did leave a few of the future extensions. Some of the Measure M projects aren't here yet. Here's the Red Line subway extension to South LA. I have another video about that one because I'm really excited about that. Of course, the Orange Line is going to be converted to light rail, and then over here, I have this shown as just an extension of the Orange Line, but this is the North Hollywood to Pasadena / Glendale bus rapid transit light rail project. Similar to the Orange Line, it is going to start as a bus rapid transit thing and eventually be converted into light rail. And once it is converted to light rail, in a matter of decades, I don't see why this would be two separate lines. It would most likely be one continuous light rail line from Pasadena to Chatsworth, which would be wonderful, of course. And then we've got our few other Measure M things I'd like to show on here. The West Santa Ana branch, it's not that much of it is shown, but that's the new light rail line through the east side of downtown, and then I have it shown here sharing tracks with the Metro Blue Line, so the transfers would be easy. And of course, we also have our Lincoln Boulevard LMU line here, which is going to come in at some point. And that's all I really wanted to get into right now, is to kind of show how the Antelope Valley line would be affected by the coming of high-speed rail. High-speed rail is coming. It's under construction now, so I think it would be silly not to at least have high-speed rail logistically incorporated into the way that we kind of plan for our region in the coming years, because it is happening. It's happening now, and it is going to change the connectography, to borrow a word from Parag Khanna, of California in a very major way. I mean, Palmdale and Sylmar will be, instead of an hour and 15 minutes train ride, they will be a 20-minute train ride away from each other, give or take. So it is really going to change the geography, the connectography of our state in a pretty meaningful way. And since I was just kind of messing around with the map here, what I did, I thought it would be nice to, now this is something I'm going to get into a lot more when I release a more serious video about the Santa Paula branch, but I thought that the best approach to reviving rail service on this corridor would be a DMU service similar to the Sonoma Marin area transit up in Sonoma and Marin County in the North Bay near San Francisco. Now that project was it really was, they could not have possibly done a better job, I don't think. If you look, let me see if I can find the. So the Sonoma Marin area rail transit, like they built this DMU line on a disused or a partially abandoned Northwest Pacific rail line, and they were so under budget. It was really they really hit it out of the park. Like, they have this perfect kind of bedroom community style DMU passenger rail service. It's affordable, it's comfortable. I think they have the schedule pretty well figured out. And most notably, it cost way less money than BART did, which was the Bay Area Rapid Transit, which is famously very expensive to build. So anyway, it's pretty much just a standard rail line with self-powered passenger cars. And I was speaking with a gentleman over at the Ventura County Transit Commission about it, and he also said that DMU service was something that they were looking at more seriously for this. And what I started thinking is that this portion of railroad right here, like, this isn't an uninhabited area. There are a couple towns. There's like Agua Dulce, I think. There's Acton over here, and what I got to thinking about is if we're going to be doing a DMU service connecting, Magic Mountain, Castiac Junction, Fillmore, and all that, with like maybe every half an hour DMU service that wouldn't totally break the bank, then maybe the best thing to do would be to really look at how we could maybe use this old right-of-way to make sure that these more rural communities are actually able to see some of the benefit from California high-speed rail when it gets here. Because, for example, if you're someone living right here in Acton or wherever Acton is in relation to the Antelope Valley line, it's not exactly clear how. I mean, I guess you could drive to the Palmdale high-speed rail hub, but I mean, the idea is to get people to not have to own cars at all. So what I think would be better would be maybe to develop a larger DMU line, and maybe this is we're talking decades and decades here into the future. So of course this is kind of pie in the sky for those of you that will have undoubtedly want to make note of how long something like this would take to develop in the comments. But it is, of course, important that we connect rural communities to high-speed rail. And I think one of the reasons that the commuter rail for Santa Barbara County, the car-free Santa Barbara, if you just Google, like Santa Barbara commuter rail here, you'll see that where's Santa Barbara's commuter train, or rail commute in an impending reality. So this is something that Santa Barbara County has been pushing for a while, and that's a commuter rail line similar to Metrolink between Ventura and the stations in Santa Barbara County, like of course Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, and Goleta here. There are about 20,000 people that make this commute every day, and Route 101, they keep widening it, and it makes the traffic even worse, of course, because of induced demand. And what I think is maybe the best approach would be if, instead of trying to get this passenger rail service going in like 2 separate locations, like right now there's an effort to get passenger rail service here in the Santa Clara River Valley, and there's a separate effort to get passenger rail service in addition to the existing Amtrak service between Ventura and Santa Barbara. And what I'm thinking is these shouldn't be in conflict with each other. These efforts should be working in conjunction with each other against Union Pacific, because the real obstacle to anybody who follows California railroading to passenger rail improvements is Union Pacific Railroad. So if there were a coalition, if Ventura County and Santa Barbara County worked together on this and maybe worked towards getting a single consolidated DMU service here, I'll show that on the map, what that might look like now. So if we brought back DMU service on the Santa Paula branch, it would look like this. This is the old Santa Paula branch, including the portions that Supervisor Antonovich, Catherine Barker's predecessor, actually had paved over, even though we'll just assume that that can be undone for the sake of this map. And it can be undone, and just we'll assume that Catherine Barker will be willing to take those steps. And what we see here is we can have kind of a DMU line similar to the SMART train in the North Bay, that would kind of tie these rural communities, or these more rural communities, into the greater Los Angeles Metro Rail network, and to most importantly the forthcoming high-speed rail network. So somebody living in Fillmore could take the DMU service. It would be like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to the Palmdale hub, and in Palmdale you'll be able to get high-speed trains to San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, Anaheim, and even Las Vegas. And while this portion of the right-of-way is kind of older, and it would be like maybe an hour and 30 minutes, if it's only an additional 2.5 hours to Sacramento or San Francisco from here, that's only a 3.5 or 4 hour total journey, which is still less than driving. And that's the main thing there, is competing with driving. And of course I thought it would be neat just to get Kern County in on this, and maybe extend it up to Tehachapi eventually, because there is a cute train station here. Tehachapi is a great little town. I think they deserve to have rail service, and high-speed rail is going to go right through Tehachapi, and it seems unfair to me that they would be hosting high-speed rail but not actually have passenger rail access. So if maybe we had like this DMU line, if we could get some state funding or something, we could get this DMU line to really tie these rural communities together. And what I'd like to see long range is maybe just tie together all of the different efforts to get passenger rail service in these rural communities, so that instead of this piecemeal approach, why not just buy the coast route from Union Pacific and just solve all of these problems in one legislative effort? Because Union Pacific owns this track, and that's why there's so many unfulfilled ambitions when it comes to passenger rail on the California coast. It comes down to Union Pacific owning the tracks and not being very flexible with how they're used and how often they're used, because Union Pacific is a for-profit company that doesn't really care how good the passenger rail service is. They care about making money for their shareholders. This is existing track 2 up here to Lompoc. So the DMU service that I'm kind of fantasizing about here, if California really got it together, bought the coast route from Union Pacific, and just got a nice big DMU service together to really link together California's rugged rural communities to this new high-speed rail we're building, it would pull the state together in a really meaningful way, I think. And one of the best things high-speed rail is going to be doing for California is to connect its wealthy coastal communities to its poor inland backcountry, because the income and the wealth disparity between coastal California and rural California is really noticeable. It's it's enormous. The access to government services and stuff, and I mean, you can see why you get stuff like why people are so frustrated with government in rural areas, frustrated enough to even vote for Trump, because they really don't get to see this wealth that's generated by our urban areas. And connecting rural communities to our urban areas is, I think, the best way to make California a more cohesive, more whole unit, a more just connectivity is destiny, in the words of Parag Khanna. And I think our rural communities are every bit as deserving of connectivity as urban communities. And I'll leave it with that. Please do like and subscribe. And I will be following up on this kind of more or less focused video with a much more focused video that I'll write a script for and stuff, about the old Santa Paula branch specifically and the effort to revive rail service there. This was just mostly just food for thought. But yeah, thanks for tuning into Los Angelist. Please subscribe and like.